All right, okay, all right. No? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Can you hear me? You can? Okay, good. It's very weird. I'm used to having a mic, but oh no, I can kind of hear myself. Okay, anyway, thank you so much. It is really so wonderful to see all of you. I have to say I've really been missing the enthusiasm and the energy of rooms like this, full of New Democrats who are ready to build a better future. Thank you for being here in person for the first time in almost 3 years. It's amazing. And I see so many familiar faces, and I also see some really great new ones. And I want to say, if this was your first NDP Provincial Council, I hope that your introduction to Robert's Rules of Orders was a pleasant one. And if our provincial council is something of an old hat for you, well, no, this is not an invitation to challenge the chair. But in all seriousness, it really is so great to be here together discussing the future of our party, discussing how we can build our party toward our 2023 campaign. And while the political spring ended with arguably the biggest government collapse since Ralph Klein blew up the Calgary General Hospital, we are now at the start of a very, very important political summer, full of barbecues, full of festivals, and time spent outdoors with Albertans. Now, today is also Father's Day, so to all the dads in the room who are spending their time here instead with their families, thank you so much for everything that you do. Now, whether that is taking your kids to sports or helping with their homework or changing yet another diaper, And thank you to Lou, sitting right up there, for being a wonderful father to our 2 children and now a wonderful dog father to 2 doggies, one of which really also could use a diaper. Lou, just saying. Anyway, the fact is it's dads that make a difference, and it's on days like today as well that I think back to my own dad and just how far our party has come. So, as most of you know, I was kind of born into the NDP. In fact, if it weren't for this party, it's very arguable I wouldn't have been born at all. Because, back in 1963, I'm not sure how many of you have had to listen to this story over a beer or not, but a show of hands. Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to tell it anyway. Yeah, Lou definitely. But the fact is that back in 1963, my dad wasn't exactly eyeing a family. Instead, he was much more focused on the provincial seat map. He was our party's first ever provincial secretary, which in a small party with no seats meant he was also a volunteer, an organizer, a donor, a door knocker, a campaign manager, a chief strategist, and when necessary, a paper candidate. I guess it's just really that last thing that Brandon hasn't done yet. We'll see. But, but no, seriously, in the run-up to the 1963 election then, when a couple candidates dropped out of the race, out of Calgary, just before the nomination deadline, who had to stage a last-minute recruitment effort? Well, of course, it was my dad. Problem was, he was too busy getting ready for E-Day up in Edmonton, working on it, to make it down to Calgary from Edmonton. So he turned to somebody he'd only recently met, but trusted already, my mom, Sandy. Now, my mom drove a pretty hard bargain, quite literally. She made my dad promise that if she went to Calgary the day before the nomination deadline and found him as 2 candidates, in exchange, he had to drive her all the way to the east coast of the continent, which was where she was from, a couple of weeks later. Not exactly a fair deal, but Dad was kind of desperate, so he agreed. So 24 hours before the deadline to submit candidates to take on Ernest Manning's social credit government, my mom was down in Calgary, walking around with a clipboard, looking for anyone who might look good on a leaflet. Now, my dad had told her there were 3 qualifications. You had to have a social conscience, you had to have a valid membership in the party, which Mom could sell them right then, and the inability to say no, a fundamentally important part of stepping up in this party. Grassroots organizing at its finest. Now, needless to say, we did not win that election. We did, however, have a full slate of candidates, something we've religiously fought to maintain in every election since. And that road trip to the East Coast, well, that also happened. And in fact, it was on that drive that my dad asked my mom to marry him. And the rest is history. My mom, she said yes, and it all led to one of their greatest successes ever, me. 11 months later. Seriously, you know, they just really worked very quickly. But it also led to my brothers and to our family, and ultimately my dad's successful election in 1971, and so many, many other things that had really nothing at all to do with me. The fact is, though, you know, I love my dad, and I know he loved us very much, but even today, I still think that on some level he was thinking if he couldn't find candidates, well, he would just start making them himself. Now, that was more than 50 years ago. And I say all this today because our party has come such a long way. And it's such a long way from where we were when my mom was literally wandering around Calgary with a clipboard looking for candidates. We have decades of growth and expansion under our feet. Our party has been shaped and reshaped through leaders, amazing leaders like Ray Martin, Ross Harvey, Pam Barrett, Raj Panu, and Brian Mason. And while Alberta's NDP has changed over the years, we have always risen to defend the values and ideals of modern, progressive Albertans. New Democrats are now and always have been focused on things that matter. More ability to live affordably, good, sustainable jobs, good schools, a strong public healthcare system, and a more fair and just society. And while we are still the party of the little guy, we should recognize we ourselves are not so little anymore. And in the last 10 years, we went from a caucus of 2 to 4 to 54, our first government. We were a government that was learning by doing, by diversifying the economy and by making life better for everyday Albertans. And today, we are the strongest official opposition in Canada, bar none. And I say this because we're not just taking principled stands against the many missteps and misjudgments and failures of this UCP government, but we are also working so hard with an incredible staff and incredible thought leaders as volunteers and as elected representatives and as people who work for us, building thoughtful, incredible economic proposals on energy development, on emissions reduction, on affordable childcare, on stronger post-secondary education, on province-wide high-speed internet, and so much more. This party has grown from a small pool of dedicated supporters to a party that is literally out fundraising the Conservative machine. Last year alone, as many of you know, our party raised more than $6.1 million, the vast majority of which came from first-time donors. We've had contested nominations across the province in competitive ridings like Lethbridge East. We've got a contested nomination coming up in Central Peace Notley, and even here, as you heard yesterday, in Red Deer South. And I'll talk more about our candidates in a moment, but I want to say it is clear that we have more people giving their time and their effort to support our victory than ever before in our history. So as we get bigger and we're bringing more and more people in, it is also on all of us to do everything we can to treat each other with the kindness and the respect that is emblematic of our party. Now, in recent weeks, some concerns, very serious concerns, have been raised, which led to some important discussions this weekend. And I want to address that here today directly. It is the absolute objective of our party to build the most open and inclusive and welcoming political movement in Canada. Everyone, from volunteers to employees to candidates to the folks who happen to wander into a campaign office curious about what it is we have to say. All of those folks must be treated with the dignity and respect that we all care about so much. Now, the fact is, though, it is clear that in some cases we have fallen short. We've heard concerns expressed about that. And as your leader, I take responsibility for this, and I apologize. Many of you have asked me what we're going to do to make things right. I'm grateful to all the volunteers and all the employees who have been working on that question in the past few months. I am incredibly encouraged by the honest and respectful conversation that we have been having here this weekend, and by the decisions that we have made democratically about how to make our party better. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's taken part in that process. I take responsibility now for ensuring that the directions that you have given us this weekend are carried out. We will engage an external firm to conduct independent investigation, mediation, and resolution of complaints. An independent body will also review our internal HR policies to ensure we have robust policies and proper codes of conduct in place. And all executive staff, including myself, will take additional respectful workplace training because we know we can always grow, we can always improve, and we can always learn more. We commit to addressing the outstanding matters that were raised by our constituency associations from many different corners of this province in their March letter by the end of July, and we will complete the vetting of candidates who are currently in the process by August. And as a result of that, we will have a full roster of extraordinary Alberta NDP candidates ready to campaign and to win as early as this fall. Now, some of you, I'm sure, have already heard 2 of those candidates were nominated this weekend in competitive, respectful races. And just to give everyone here a sense of just what that actually means, well, yesterday alone, our party ran a ranked ballot contest in a riding with more than 1,000 members, and a second contested nomination here in Red Deer with 300 members on a weekend where we're also holding our provincial council. At the end of a week, topping off a week, when we also organized 57 different volunteer outreach opportunities and events. It is this kind of momentum that is made possible by teamwork. So to all of our staff, thank you for growing our party, and I promise you, you will be respected as working people, because that is one of our core values as New Democrats. And to all our volunteers, there is no party without you, and we know that, and we will make sure we do everything we can to make you feel empowered to build this movement together. Yeah. And to our nomination contestants and our candidates, thank you so much for stepping forward to make your community and your province a better place. We are all here, my friends. We're all here because we share a common set of values: compassion for others, defending workers' rights and growing them, economic security for all of us, even as we work diligently to diversify that economy, the protection of our air and our land and our water, the supporting of the most vulnerable always, and fighting hatred and promoting diversity and inclusion, and overall, just the unending pursuit of social justice. We, as New Democrats, we raise each other up so that we can all live our best lives, so that all Albertans can live their best lives. So, my friends, we've come a long, long way from when my mother was wandering around downtown Calgary with her clipboard. And the fact is that at some point in the next year, we will stage the greatest campaign in the history of this provincial party, and we will win. Because you know what? Here's the thing. While we build, those other guys, they're burning it down. They're burning it down. In fact, you know, already sitting in a dumpster fire, Jason Kenney, he decided to pull the pin on a grenade. And once again, these guys have exploded. And for Albertans, though, what this means is just more uncertainty and less support for the things that matter to them. And it means families who are struggling while they watch the excuses of government that is dysfunctional, distracted, and ducking their responsibilities. Now, some have asked me, Rachel, given the leadership race, what does this change mean for the NDP? And I mostly reply, well, what change would that be? These guys haven't changed. Right now, their candidates for leader fall into three distinctly similar categories. First, there's the more of the same tranche. For Travis Taves, nothing says real change like having 23 of the most staunch Kenney supporters back your campaign. I mean, come on, he even got the coveted Tyler Shandro endorsement. It is all over people. Seriously, the guy who gave $4.7 billion to big profitable corporations while jacking up insurance rates on regular Albertans by up to 30% is now claiming he's the face of renewal? Come on, it's not going to be. The Sky Palace, it might renew its happy hour specials. That's the kind of renewal we're going to get. But Albertans, they're going to see the same bad policies that have been in place for 3 years because this guy is the guy who funded all of them, or not, as the case may be. And Rebecca Schultz, well, you know, she's kind of scandal-free if you can overlook, you know, intentional cruelty. This is the minister who, in the middle of a pandemic, went to court to stop vulnerable youth in care from receiving life-saving, income-supporting benefits that they needed to survive. She oversees a ministry that is reporting record deaths of children in care, and she thinks now is the right time to go on the road and start campaigning, really? So that's the thing with the Kenney team. It's always about themselves, never the people who need them. Now, tranche number two, I call more of the same, but they really feel bad about it. So, you know, MLAs like Rajan Sawhney and Leela here might have their heart in the right place, you know, when the cameras are on. But let's ask, where were they when Jason Kenney and Travis Taves clawed back Aish? Or refused to help Calgarians with hail damage to their homes? Or when they brought in Bill Haight to out queer youth in schools? They were both there. And they did, and they said nothing. And there is zero reason they should be trusted now. And then there's the third tranche. More of the same, but also revenge. Brian Jean, Danielle Smith, Todd Lowen, these folks aren't running for Albertans or for Alberta. They're running because they have scores to settle. And what's worse, they're preaching really, really bad ideas, like taking away Albertans' pensions or making them pay more for the same police force run by Tyler Shandro, all to cater to folks who feel Alberta should separate from Canada altogether. And really, you know, who possibly could say no to their own independent, sovereign, autonomous beachfront property sitting on a lake of fire? Nobody, right? Alberta folks, we have a pretty clear picture of where this is all going. No matter who the next UCP leader is, all Albertans will see is more arrogance, more excuses, more extremism, and more division. And if we're going to get season after season after season of unending, non-stop drama, Instead of seeing it in the legislature, I'd rather just go home and flick on Grey's Anatomy. At least there they listen to the doctors in that show. Hey, they even have doctors in that show. My friends, the most consistent thing about Alberta's most chaotic political movement in history is that when the UCP shows up to work, the problems get worse, not better. So while the media and the pundits and the political scientists will no doubt have quite a summer, chronicling what the UCP looks like post-Kenny, we're going to focus on what Alberta looks like post-UCP. My friends, there are some positive signs for Alberta right now, which, if handled appropriately, correctly, could open the door to new opportunities for all Albertans across the province in every walk of life. The unemployment rate is coming down. Real GDP is starting to inch back up, and government revenues are going through the roof. But we also know that this recovery has nothing to do with the UCP, and moreover, it is very, very fragile. We've all been here before. The decisions we make today will determine how we recover, how many of us share in that recovery, and how long it will last. Fact is, even with those green shoots, times are tough right now for most Albertans. Inflation is at a 30-year high, but Alberta's wage growth is the lowest in Canada, and those who are unemployed are out of work longer. So that's why our party has been talking to Albertans about what we need to do to build a stronger province with a stronger economic future. And Albertans want a government that they can trust to act in their best interest, the people of Alberta's best interest, and to do so with integrity. They want a government that is going to rebuild our healthcare system, fund our schools, and lead us to a more diversified and sustainable future. And friends, that government will be Alberta's NDP. Now, we already have a caucus that is capable and experienced and making a real difference in the lives of Albertans. You know them all, and I'd like if you could all just give a great big hand to all of our MLAs. And MLAs, can you just stand up and give a big wave, those of you who are here? I know, there we go. There they are, yes. One of them's a big swimmer. Anyway, but so you all know who our incredible MLAs are. They have been just working so well, and they are part of what has got to be one of the most effective opposition I've ever seen anywhere. And I've been watching politics for a long time. But maybe who you don't know is some of the talented and caring Albertans who have been stepping up and who will be running for us, each with their own unique set of skills. A little bit like Ocean's 11, except currently, as of this weekend, there's 34 of them. Just based on their talent alone, here's some of what we will do for Alberta under an NDP government. We'll build a stronger and more diversified energy economy using the advice and expertise of energy analyst Samir Kayende and renewable energy expert Najwan Al-Ghaneed, creating tens of thousands of jobs in local upgrading, petrochemical refining, and renewable sources like hydrogen, geothermal, wind, and solar, and so much more. And we will do this while taking action to fight climate change, joining industry in achieving net zero emissions by 2050, and ensuring a decarbonized electricity grid much earlier by 2035. We're going to build stronger communities, funding important public services and projects, everything from flood protection to expanding high-speed internet to increasing childcare spaces, because our team has community leaders with real experience, decades of it, like Drew Farrell, Rob Miyashiro, and Karen Shaw, all of whom have proven themselves as locally elected officials over decades across this province. And Karen, meanwhile, who also raises commercial cattle near Redwater, well, she'll join fellow cattle rancher Richard Bruno and former Ag Minister O'Neill Collier in growing our agriculture industry, helping farms and ranches to succeed and expand our opportunities in agri-foods and ag tech. And we will support Albertans in starting or expanding their small businesses with new grants and tax credits to support investment, because we have business owners like Gurinder Brar and Parmeet Singh who know what it takes to find and earn success. And Canadian Forces veteran Marilyn North Pagan, who took her own expertise in the Canadian Armed Forces into private security, who speaks strongly on important issues like truth and reconciliation, alongside Indigenous educator Jody Calahoo Stonehouse, who brings with her an extensive and deeply respected career in fighting the structural inequality experienced by First Nation peoples across this province, while at the same time working to preserve Indigenous culture, language, and traditional land use. We are all treaty people, and Alberta is treaty land. And we need to respect and care for that treaty land. And we will do so with conservationist Sarah El Maligi on our team. Albertans will know that our mountains will be protected for future generations and not ever mined for coal. And right here in Red Deer South, where we have the anti-science, anti-mask, anti-Canada UCP MLA Jason Steffen, who's gonna make him pack his bags and send him straight back to Arizona? Michelle Bear, a trusted city solicitor and community leader. Our party is going to stand up for the most vulnerable. We'll restore income supports, rental supplements, and build more affordable housing, because with anti-poverty advocates like Janet Aramenko, we can and we will end homelessness in this province. We cut child poverty in half, and friends, when we get back there, we are going to cut the other half. That's it. And we will reinvest in our post-secondary institutions, making higher learning, making sure it's more affordable and accessible while building the workforce of tomorrow. Because we have Sean Fluker, a well-respected lawyer who serves on the faculty of the U of C and knows what it means to teach the next generation, along with Julia Hayter, an educational assistant, and teacher Rosman Valencia, and school board trustee Nathan Epp, just nominated yesterday, and 30-year educator Bill Tanita. All of them are going to come together and help us fix our schools. Yeah. And what are we going to do that? We're going to have more teachers, smaller classrooms, more help to fight learning loss, more support with children with disabilities. We will ensure as well that there's a counselor available to every student, addressing the growing mental health challenges facing all of our youth. And our children, well, they will have a proper, modern curriculum, one that actually prepares them for the future. One that teaches them about climate change, my friends, gender equality, poverty reduction, anti-racism, and the history of residential schools. Because my friends, this is something that they need to start learning in kindergarten, because we know that that is what is actually needed to do part of the walk towards truth and reconciliation. And let's talk about healthcare, because, oh my Lord. Under the UCP, our healthcare system is collapsing, and it worries me. Like, we can't afford another 4 years of this. Our healthcare system can't sustain another 4 years of this. Doctors are leaving, ER wait times are skyrocketing, EMS is in crisis. It's so bad that when Albertans call 911, we don't know if the ambulance will arrive on time or if there's even one available. Our team will stop the excuses, and we will act. Alberta's NDP is going to fight to protect public health care, and with RNs like Daniel Larrabee, paramedics like Cam Heenan, and world-renowned medical researchers like Dr. Luann Metz, we will go even further than protection. We will reinvest in frontline healthcare, building new hospitals, boosting surgical capacity, increasing access to mental health supports, and we will do it by making sure our healthcare system is strong and public. We'll be attracting the best healthcare professionals from across the world, not chasing them away. And my friends, we will stop all plans to privatize healthcare. Full stop, the end. Friends, that's what our Alberta looks like. And we have so much opportunity to leverage our prosperity to make real change in the lives of Albertans. Government after government, Conservatives have squandered the good times, making life better only for the few. But New Democrats do things differently. We always have. Which brings me back to my dad, Father's Day, you know. In 1974, when the Lougheed Conservatives were debating a budget that was flush with cash from high oil prices, my dad, the then lone NDPer in the House, rose to speak. And I quote, "The test will not be on the huge sums of money coming in, but rather how we use it to improve quality of life, not only to provide opportunities for the haves, but for the have-nots, because all people should be able to share in the great prospects that lie ahead for the province of Alberta." So, you know, I think, my friends, over 50 years later, almost 60 years later, we've been pretty good at sticking to our themes, sticking to our message box. And that vision for Alberta, the fact is, it's up to us. It's up to all of us, no one else. Albertans are counting on us to fix our healthcare and our education, not break them down, to create an economy that works for everyone, not just the rich, and to lead with integrity and compassion, not greed and selfishness. Our people, our plan, our values represent Alberta at its best, compassionate, hardworking, and ready for the future. So I encourage you all, keep talking to your neighbors, keep organizing in your communities, keep knocking on doors, keep working the phones. Those who can, ask for a little more. Those who can't, ask for a little bit of their time. Wear your NDP orange proudly. This is your party. This is your movement. This is your NDP.
Watching. Alberta's NDP is working hard to build Alberta's future and to build a future that involves all Albertans. The momentum is building. If you want to be part of it, join us at albertasndp.ca.